beat my wife's neck. Oh, wow. Out your fucking mouth.
10 actors who ruined their careers and lost everything.
Do you ever eat any human flesh?
No. You know what you have to do to be a cannibal? You have to have actually eaten someone.
Hollywood has a way of turning ordinary people into legends in the blink of an eye, only to tear them down just as quickly. Today, you're worshipped by millions, and tomorrow, everything you worked for can disappear without warning. In this town, fame fades fast, money slips away, and one reckless choice can spark a firestorm capable of erasing even the most dazzling star from the sky. Beneath the flashing lights and red carpets exists a ruthless arena of scrutiny, scandals, and buried truths, where admiration can flip into fury the moment a single headline hits. Few stories showed this danger more clearly than Cuba Gooding Jr. Back in 1997, he stood at the absolute summit of fame, center stage at the world's biggest award show, gripping an Oscar earned from his unforgettable role in Jerry Maguire. In that instant, he unleashed a line that would live forever in pop culture: "Show me the money," and the room exploded with applause. The energy was unreal, the moment electric, the kind of victory that feels like a promise of unstoppable greatness. Everything about that night suggested a future that could only go up. But, as Hollywood history keeps reminding us, success is never permanent, and the higher the climb, the more brutal the fall waiting below. For a time, it looked as if Hollywood had crowned him one of its shining stars. Gooding followed up with powerful performances in films like Men of Honor and Radio, earning admiration for his charm, authenticity, and undeniable talent. He was a figure audiences rooted for, a symbol of charisma and heart on the silver screen. But as the years rolled on, the narrative began to shift. By 2019, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s name no longer evoked triumph. It had become synonymous with scandal. It started when a woman accused him of groping her at a New York bar, leading to his arrest on charges of sexual assault. Almost immediately, other women came forward with similar accusations, recounting instances of unwanted touching and inappropriate behavior. What had once been a celebrated Hollywood hero was now at the center of a storm that threatened to erase the legacy he had spent decades building. By October, Cuba Gooding Jr., once beloved for his infectious energy and charm, found himself facing a storm of headlines that painted him as a figure of betrayal rather than joy. Journalists had indicted him on multiple charges tied to separate incidents, shaking the public's perception of the actor who once lit up the screen with every smile. In 2022, Gooding accepted a plea deal, admitting to one count of forcible touching. He avoided jail time, but was ordered into counseling and behavioral monitoring, with the promise that his record could be expunged if he stayed out of trouble. The decision outraged many accusers, who argued that justice had been denied. Since then, Gooding has largely vanished from Hollywood's spotlight, appearing only in a few small independent projects. His reputation, once sparkling, is now a cautionary tale. Talent and charm can't shield you when your personal choices take center stage. The joyful presence that audiences once adored has been replaced by a stark reminder of how fast the spotlight can dim. Then there's Will Smith, the man whose very name once meant charisma, charm, and box office gold. From the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to blockbusters like Men in Black and Independence Day, Smith was more than a superstar. He was America's favorite leading man, capable of making audiences laugh, cry, and cheer in a single film. But on the night of the 94th Academy Awards, decades of unblemished stardom unraveled in seconds. It started with a joke. Comedian Chris Rock quipped about Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head, a comment that initially drew laughter from Will and the crowd. Seconds later, though, Smith strode onto the stage and slapped Rock for millions of viewers worldwide. The auditorium froze. Shock rippled across social media. Then came the words that sealed the moment in Oscar history: "Don't mention my wife again." The incident replayed endlessly across screens and headlines. Though Smith later offered a tearful apology during his Best Actor acceptance speech for King Richard, critics noted he hadn't directly addressed Rock until the following day. A single impulsive action, broadcast to the world, forever altered the image of one of Hollywood's brightest stars. Hollywood loves to crown legends, but it can just as quickly strip them of everything. One impulsive act, one explosive second in the spotlight, and a career can implode. Will Smith knows this all too well. The Academy confirmed he had been asked to leave, and he refused. Within a week, he resigned, only to be banned from all Oscar-related events for a full decade. Chris Rock chose not to sue, but the fallout was relentless. Several of Will's upcoming projects were shelved or canceled, and late-night hosts made him the centerpiece of countless jokes. In the years that followed, Will retreated into a quieter life, slowly rebuilding his career. His 2022 film Emancipation drew modest reviews, and he focused on family, reflection, and spiritual growth. He's been teasing new projects lately, and even hinted at Bad Boys 5. Yet no matter what he does next, that single slap remains a permanent mark on his legacy. In Hollywood, it's not always the rise or even the fall that defines a legend. Sometimes it's one moment of lost control that overshadows everything else. Thomas Gibson's story echoes a similar caution. For over a decade, he was a familiar face to primetime viewers. As Aaron Hotchner on Criminal Minds, he portrayed a relentless FBI profiler, fiercely protecting both the public and his family. Fans admired his strength, and he even directed several episodes. For 12 seasons, Gibson was untouchable, until one violent outburst destroyed it all. In August 2016, during a heated argument with a writer-producer over a script, Gibson kicked the man in a fit of rage. Initially, he was only suspended, but weeks later, ABC and CBS terminated his contract. Past conflicts resurfaced, including a 2010 altercation that had already landed him in anger management. This time, there would be no second chances. Criminal Minds quietly wrote Hotchner off the show, explaining he had entered witness protection to safeguard his son. Since then, Gibson has stayed mostly out of the spotlight, taking on only a handful of smaller projects like the 2020 film Shadow Wolves and the indie comedy The Writer's Bible. Both Will Smith and Thomas Gibson serve as stark reminders. In Hollywood, one moment can erase years of work, and the world rarely forgets. Hollywood fame can vanish in an instant. One moment, you're adored, your name on every marquee, your face on every screen. The next, a single misstep, a single scandal can erase decades of success. Outside of acting, he now keeps a low profile, focusing on family, golf, and photography, occasionally sharing glimpses of his life on social media. Despite rumors of a Criminal Minds revival, he hasn't been invited back. For fans who grew up watching him as Hutch, it's a stark reminder. No legacy in Hollywood is untouchable. And then there's Paula Deen, the sweet Southern belle who became America's culinary queen almost overnight. For years, she reigned supreme, turning buttery Southern recipes into a nationwide obsession. With multiple hit shows, best-selling cookbooks, and a chain of restaurants, she built a multi-million-dollar empire. But her charm and laugh, once her trademarks, couldn't shield her from a storm that would bring it all crashing down. In 2013, everything changed. A former employee filed a lawsuit accusing Deen and her brother of fostering a workplace riddled with harassment, discrimination, and racism. The allegations alone were shocking, but it was Paula Deen's own testimony that sealed her fate. Under oath, she admitted to using racist slurs and shockingly described imagining a plantation-style wedding with black men dressed as servants. The revelation ignited a firestorm, shattering the image of the beloved chef and transforming her empire into a cautionary tale of fame undone. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, hit the bell, and subscribe. There are countless more dark corners of Hollywood we're just beginning to uncover. The backlash came fast, and it came hard. Food networks cut ties without hesitation. Sponsors vanished overnight, leaving empty promises in their wake. Major retailers, including Walmart and Target, yanked her products off shelves as if they had never existed. In the span of just a few weeks, Paula Deen went from one of television's most beloved chefs to a national pariah. One moment, she was the face of culinary charm. The next, she was persona non grata. Yet, in the years that followed, she refused to vanish completely. She worked tirelessly to rebuild her image, carving out a new path with her own YouTube channel, launching Pauline's Family Kitchen restaurants across the South, and making occasional television appearances. Her reputation never fully recovered, but she cultivated a small, fiercely loyal online following, fans who admired her resilience, even as critics never let go of the scandal that had toppled her. Today, Paula Deen remains a figure of fascination, celebrated by some for her comeback, condemned by others for the story her fall told. A story not unlike another Hollywood starlet's meteoric rise and abrupt crash. Megan Fox, once Hollywood's golden girl, suddenly cast aside. The very definition of the it girl, bold, breathtaking, impossible to ignore. Before 2007, she was practically unknown, but her breakout role in Transformers thrust her into instant global superstardom. Almost overnight, she was gracing magazine covers, dominating red carpets, and signing multi-million-dollar endorsement deals. For a fleeting moment, Megan Fox was Hollywood's hottest name, the girl everyone wanted to be or be with. Then came one interview that changed everything. In 2009, during a conversation with Wonderland magazine, Fox was asked about working with director Michael Bay. Instead of offering the carefully crafted diplomatic answer the industry demanded, she did the unthinkable. She compared him to Napoleon and even Hitler, painting him as a chaos-driven nightmare on set. She admitted she liked him personally, noting his social awkwardness, but the comments hit like a bombshell. The fallout was swift. Michael Bay reportedly considered moving past it, but executive producer Steven Spielberg was not so forgiving. Under Spielberg's direction, Fox was fired from Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Then, as if the industry needed to pile on, crew members went public, labeling her ungrateful and difficult. Almost overnight, her carefully cultivated image collapsed. The media dubbed her a diva, major studios stopped calling, and the Hollywood spotlight she had basked in suddenly burned out. For years, Megan Fox faded from the mainstream radar, choosing smaller roles and focusing on raising her 3 sons. But the story didn't end there. By the late 2010s, she began a quiet, calculated comeback, speaking openly about misogyny, objectification, and the double standards that fueled her downfall. She slowly reclaimed her narrative. In recent years, Fox has re-emerged with projects like Till Death and Johnny and Clyde, alongside a high-profile relationship with musician Machine Gun Kelly that kept her firmly in the public eye. Today, Megan Fox stands taller than ever, more self-assured, more grounded, and fully aware of her own power. The girl who was once Hollywood's darling, then its outcast, is now a woman commanding attention on her own terms. No longer the it girl of the 2000s, she's now a woman taking back control of her narrative on her own terms. But for Armie Hammer, Hollywood's so-called golden boy, the story was much darker. From acclaimed performances in The Social Network and Call Me By Your Name, he seemed destined for A-list immortality. He had the looks, the charm, the kind of confidence that could carry a leading man through decades. Fans, studios, and critics alike believed he was untouchable. Then, in early 2021, it all collapsed. Leaked text messages allegedly sent by Hammer surfaced online, and what people read sent chills through Hollywood. The DMs contained shocking descriptions of violent sexual fantasies and even hinted at cannibalistic desires. Social media erupted overnight. Fans were horrified, tabloids relentless, and the internet became a storm that no PR team could tame. Hammer fired back instantly, branding the accusations a brutal lie. Yet, instead of fading, the storm only grew louder as more women stepped forward with claims of manipulation and abuse. What began as denial quickly turned into collapse as the sheer weight of the allegations erased any real hope of a comeback. Almost overnight, his future evaporated. Roles disappeared, management walked away, and Hollywood shut its doors without hesitation. What started as scandal soon became spectacle when Discovery Plus released House of Hammer, a documentary that peeled back layers not just of his alleged behavior, but of the unsettling legacy tied to his influential family. By 2022, the contrast was jarring. The actor once tipped for global stardom was reportedly selling timeshares in the Cayman Islands just to survive, a dramatic fall few could have imagined. Now, Armie Hammer has largely faded from public sight, but his downfall is permanently carved into Hollywood lore, a sobering reminder of how fast fame can shatter when the past refuses to stay buried. If this story pulled you in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because Hollywood's darkest chapters are still unfolding, and the next one might be even more shocking. For years, Kevin Spacey reigned as one of the most celebrated actors of his era. With an imposing screen presence, surgical intensity, and 2 Oscars for The Usual Suspects and Amber City, he occupied the highest tier of Hollywood respect. Then came House of Cards, a role that didn't just elevate his career, but transformed streaming television and proved that anti-heroes could rule the spotlight. At his peak, Spacey seemed unstoppable, immune to consequences. That illusion shattered in 2017. As the Me Too movement surged through the industry, his polished public image fractured when actor Anthony Rapp accused Spacey of making inappropriate advances toward him when Rapp was just 14. The revelation detonated across Hollywood, forcing the industry to confront disturbing questions about someone once revered as a master of the craft. Instead of slowing down, the revelations multiplied. Additional men came forward, each account adding to a deeply troubling pattern of alleged abuse, manipulation, and misuse of power hidden behind closed doors. The portrait that emerged stood in stark contrast to the untouchable figure audiences thought they knew. Spacey's response, a vague apology followed by a sudden announcement about his sexual orientation, only fueled the backlash, intensifying across social media, newsrooms, and late-night television. The consequences were swift and brutal. Netflix severed ties within hours, removing him entirely from House of Cards. Then came a moment that stunned Hollywood. All the money in the world erased Spacey from the film altogether, reshooting every one of his scenes with another actor in a matter of weeks, an unprecedented move. Studios panicked, projects collapsed, scripts were rewritten. A decades-long career unraveled at lightning speed. Even after some charges were dismissed and high-profile trials ended in acquittals, the verdict in the court of public opinion had already been delivered. His reputation was beyond repair. Once a fixture of red carpets and award stages, Spacey slipped into near obscurity, appearing sporadically in small independent projects that barely made a ripple. The former golden boy of cinema had become a warning etched into Hollywood history. His ascent was extraordinary and his talent unquestioned, but his downfall delivers a brutal lesson. Fame is fragile, power is fleeting, and no trophy or standing ovation can shield anyone from accountability. In Hollywood, talent may unlock the door, but integrity decides whether it stays open. And that's the reality behind the spotlight. Sometimes all it takes is one moment to turn admiration into infamy. Which Hollywood downfalls shocked you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments.